A major escalation in the Trump administration's campaign against Venezuela Tuesday, the president placing a blockade on all sanctioned oil tankers exiting the South American country and appears to be directly targeting the regime of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The president posted on Truth Social, Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like nothing they have ever seen before until such a time as they return to the United States of America all of the oil, land, and other assets they previously stole from us. He continued in part, the illegitimate Maduro regime is using oil from these stolen oil fields to finance themselves, drug terrorism, human trafficking, murder, and kidnapping. For the theft of our assets and many other reasons, the Venezuelan regime has been designated a foreign terrorist organization.
Just a week ago, the U.S. seized an oil tanker off the Venezuelan coast, alleging it was being used to transport sanctioned oil from the South American country and from Iran. Senator Lindsey applauded the move by the president, writing in part on X, "Spot on, Mr. President. The Maduro regime has wreaked havoc on our nation and our people, the people of Venezuela and the region. He associates with terrorist regimes like Hezbollah, poisons America through the drug trade, and his demise is long overdue. If he's not a terrorist, I don't know who would be." Graham capped his post with, quote, "Finish him off." But some on both sides are warning against what they see as regime change. Representative Thomas Massie wrote in his own post, "I will vote to keep our forces out of Venezuela. Regime change abroad isn't America first, and it won't make America great again." And Mehdi Hassan echoed that, writing, "Not just deranged, but criminal. Venezuela could be the next Iraq." But Republican Senator Rick Scott pushed back on that idea. Take a listen.
It's not regime change. He's not the president of Venezuela. He stole the last election. He lost it. It was proven he lost the last election. He's an indicted drug trafficker. He needs to be in prison in the United States. And what the president is doing exactly what he should be doing, stopping these drugs from killing my kids and my grandkids.
Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio were on Capitol Hill yesterday to brief Congress on the ongoing strikes on vessels off the Venezuelan coast. The latest of those strikes was on Monday, targeting 3 separate boats and killing 8 people. Rubio and Hegseth defended the strikes yesterday following that briefing. Let's take a listen.
This has been a highly successful mission that's ongoing and continued, and we're pleased to be here today to update Congress on how that's developing and how that's moving forward.
It is the 22nd bipartisan briefing we've had on a highly successful mission to counter designated terrorist organizations, cartels, bringing weapons meaning drugs, to the American people and poisoning the American people for far too long. So we're proud of what we're doing, able to lay it out very directly to these senators and soon to the House.
They also addressed the September boat attack that has been under major scrutiny following several reports that Hegseth ordered a second strike to kill survivors clinging to the side of the burning boat. Despite Trump saying in the past he had, quote, no problem releasing full unedited video of the strike, Hegseth walked that back on Tuesday.
We're also going to tomorrow allow the HASC and SASC to see the unedited video of the September 2nd, alongside with Admiral Bradley, who has done a fantastic job, has made all the right calls, and we're glad he'll be there to do it. But in keeping with long-standing Department of War policy, Department of Defense policy, of course we're not going to release a top-secret, full unedited video of that to the general public. HASC and SASC and appropriate committees will see it, but not the general public.
A lot of senators want to see the full video. Even Lindsey Graham, I believe, came out and said, just release the full video. And perhaps not to the American public, but since the American public feels involved because they now understand that Congress has been isolated out of many of the decisions when it comes down to how to deal with Venezuela, how to attack these boats that we've been attacking, and whether it counts as like narcotics or terrorism missions, and the way that the president used a word change to, authenticate some of his decisions. It just makes people wonder. And so, Congress has a responsibility to answer to the people that voted them in. And so they're asking the right questions. And I know that you get annoyed with the nuance of the second strike and the people hanging. If they were going to kill the first time and people were being killed and there was potentially the Hills reporting drugs on that boat, it still is just the transparency piece. People just want transparency because there are examples. That's just one case where people are calling for answers. But there's been many instances where even leaders like of other nations are taking in some people that have been found off the shores and not understanding what the next steps are with these people, or parents from Trinidad and Tobago saying their son was on one of these boats and not a criminal. And again, it becomes hearsay when really Congress moving forward and telling us what we're getting involved in would be the clear, transparent path to make sure that everybody understands. Like, are we about to go to war? Even tonight, we have a 9 p.m. state address that the president is doing to the nation. Like, I know people, I can't be the only one wondering what he has to say. And my first thought is that it goes towards this incident, which I hope it doesn't, because, you know, we're going into the holidays and the America First president surely should not be escalating this situation.
If he wants to escalate, I'm going to say, sound like a broken record here. If he wants to escalate, he just has to bring it to Congress and they got to vote. That's the main thing here. In terms of the video footage of the strike, I would be more comfortable having Congress be the only ones see it if Congress was capable of exercising any effective oversight and accountability of the executive branch at this point. Since they're just going along with whatever, well then yes, then the American people should see it. I know that would be unusual, but I don't see what other choice we have. If Congress isn't going to do its job and provide meaningful oversight, then the people should see it. So that's that issue. The other issue is, so Rick Scott says there, well, it's not regime change because Maduro's regime is illegitimate because he stole the election. That's true. Juan Guaido won that election. Yes, he is not the legitimate leader of Venezuela, but he is the effective leader of Venezuela. Right. He exercises control over the military. He is, like, in a moral sense, no tyrant is the legitimate leader of their country. You know, Kim Jong-un is not the legitimate leader of North Korea because he's an evil person, but he is the leader. So it's not. So that's a stupid little rhetorical thing Rick Scott was doing there. It would still be regime change because that is the regime that is in power. It's not the regime that should be in power. It doesn't, in like a John Locke sense, have the consent of the governed, you know, to rule. But they are still. Nicolas Maduro is still ruling, and to take him out would be regime change. And if they want to do it, they should make that case to Congress, and then we'll see it, and then maybe people will vote for it. Thomas Massie said he's not going to vote for it no matter what because it's not America First. Absolutely fine. That's his prerogative. But maybe others would be persuaded, but they're not making that case. And they're not providing any transparency about it.
Well, people are probably looking at the recent history and the recent things that the president has distanced himself from intentionally, which was decisions that were made around Afghanistan, Iraq, things that he says that his presidency and his administration disagree with the way they were handled from start to finish. Mm-hmm. And so regime change was the core essence of a lot of what happened there. And then failure on the back end when you see that the Taliban is back in control in Afghanistan, when you see that not much changes in a lot of these nations that we go in and try to be the hero of because we think that democracy should prevail. Yeah, exactly. We're spending a ton of money, you know, we're spending a ton of resources. And it's just, to me, even if there's a line down the road where people say this is an issue that we need to heavily focus on, I think that the American people overwhelmingly have been saying they really want the president to focus on what's happening right here in this country, because people can't even think about how, and not that two things can't happen at once, but people can't think about how to move forward with their grocery bill or things like that when we're talking about international wars that nobody wants to be involved with. And this is just people saying that they specifically don't want the same type of presidency that they had under George W. Bush.
And if this announcement tonight is about that, then it is a distraction. Because they can do domestic policy and foreign policy at the same time. It is a little silly to be like focused on the wrong thing. But you don't do a televised address that everyone pays attention to all the time. That is a choice then what you're going to focus on. And you can only do so many of those before we're like, okay, you're just seeking attention. Right. So that should be.
Well, he also said he's going to tout his accomplishments from this year. That's what Caroline Levitt said. So we'll see about all those accomplishments we hear about tonight.
Up next, bombshell documents show the FBI argued it did not have probable cause in raiding Mar-a-Lago. Don't go anywhere.